This is my first class of the year with the 8th grade. It's the last class on Friday, and I've been looking at it as though it's the dessert of the week for me. I've taught these guys for 7 years, and they really know a lot about this process, and they're very interested in these higher ideas. They're entering adolescence, and you start to have a bit of a philosophical awakening at that point. So they're very interested in exploring deeper themes and ideas. They also have a lot of interest in symbolism as well, which is fun for me. Since it's the first class of the year, I just like to start with a foundational lesson of why art is valuable. So what I've picked for today is my wife and I just had our first child this summer, and there is a painting that she really adores as a model for how to be a good mother. It gives her inspiration for how to raise our child. And so I'm going to explore that painting with them, get them to see how within the painting there's actually a whole philosophy of parenting kind of baked into it. And then they'll understand. One, I think they'll be curious because they were very excited for us to have our first child. And two, it'll be interesting for them to see just how valuable a painting can be to somebody. And three, it's a good example of how artwork can act as, I always say that artwork can be like a talisman that you carry with you. When Mrs. Steele and I were talking about this, she told me that there was an image, like a vision that she had of being a mother that was a really, really, really good guide for her. And it was a painting that she and I saw in Minneapolis when I went to meet her father for the first time. And it's this painting here. Now, when you first look at it, it doesn't look like very much. It's some mother holding a child. They look sweet, they look lovely. But in a lot of classes, students have been more entranced by the golden frame than by the painting. This painting, the title that art historians have given it is Madonna and Child, because it fits into the tradition of the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus. And there's a lot of Christian symbolism that we can get to at the end of class if there's enough time. But the title that I believe the artist gave, it's actually carved down here, is, I want to get the Latin just right, Mater Amabilis, which means mother worthy of love. So this is a painting showing the Virgin Mary with Jesus, or let's just say a mother with her child, and the mother is worthy of being loved. And there's actually a whole deep philosophy of parenting right here in front of this painting that I'd like to try to explore a little bit with you so that you can understand just how valuable this painting is to Mrs. Steele. I don't necessarily expect you guys to relate to this because you're not parents, but I do want you by the end of this class to understand just how valuable a painting could be to someone by showing you how valuable this painting is to Mrs. Steele. You guys ready to do that project with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. So when most people have had art classes growing up, they usually had either art history or art production. Art production would be like sculpture, ceramics, drawing, painting. And art history is where you're learning about the techniques and the biographies of the artists and how their technique compares to other periods of history and so forth. But in art appreciation classes, you're looking at the artwork, I would say, as the artist intended you to look at it. It should stand alone as either a story or a personality or a place that you appreciate in its own right. The process can vary depending on the artwork and the context and the age of the child, but the basics are you look at the painting and you start by articulating either in spoken words or in writing what you observe. And then once you've put those observations into writing, then you are better able to draw inferences from those observations, better able to come to conclusions about what's actually happening. Then once you have a stack of inferences about pieces of the painting, I encourage students to then turn on their imaginations and say, what would it sound like if you were here? What would it feel like to be in the painting? What probably happened 5 seconds before, or what will happen 5 minutes afterwards? So use your imagination to bring it to life a bit more. And then once you've done that, you've really vivified the painting for yourself. You can try to articulate what is the basic story, and then once you think you have the story down, you can then hopefully connect to it emotionally or thematically. You can look at the painting and say, okay, I've had a moment in my life that is a lot like this, or I want to have a moment in my life that is just like this, what this character is experiencing. So let's start with the basics. What's happening in the painting? What's the basic action of the painting? There's not a lot, but in just the simplest terms, what's going on here? Yes?
The mother is holding her child and they're looking at flowers.
Mother is holding her child and they're looking at flowers. Very good. What is the child doing? We'll say baby, although it might be more of a toddler. Wolfie.
Well, both the child and the mother are reaching for the flowers.
Yeah, the child is reaching out towards the pretty flowers. Good. Do you also see that the child has an arm around the mother and the mother has an arm around the child? It's very tender, very close. And more specifically, what is the mother doing? Ruby.
She's like showing the baby the flowers.
Yeah, she's got one hand on a stem and is drawing the flower towards the child, right? Okay, so we have the baby, and the baby is being shown a flower. I suppose that if I'm thinking about what my goal is, the simplest way is I just want them to be able to access art when they encounter it. And that's all that it really comes down to. Like, each class is, my basic challenge is, can I make them better at unpacking what the story is behind a painting, or connecting with it in an emotional way? Can I get them to not just see the colors, but to see the theme and the story and the ideas behind it? I want to take a closer look at the flowers, because there's actually something very important in that. So we have these white flowers. Does anyone know flowers well enough to identify what variety this is? That's okay. No. These are lilies. Lilies. And then there's actually a second kind of flower down here. These pink ones, ignore the artist's signature. Can you guys recognize these pink ones? These are a bit more easy to recognize. Yes, JC.
Roses.
They're roses, yeah, they're pink roses. Now, what do you guys know about roses, aside from the fact that they're super romantic? What's the second thing that you know about roses, or that people know about roses? They smell good. What's the third thing that people know about roses? Kendall?
Well, they have thorns.
They have thorns. Excellent, they have thorns. Now, let's take a look at what the mother's doing again. So, before we said the mother is showing flowers to her baby. Can we elaborate on that a bit more? Can we be a bit more precise? Which flowers is she showing to the child? Tristan.
She's showing the lilies.
The lilies. Why do you suppose she's showing the lilies instead of the roses? Ruby.
Lilies don't have thorns.
Lilies don't have thorns, yeah. So already we can start to get to an idea of what parents do. Parents show you the difference between what's harmful and what's healthy. Parents show you what's good and what's bad, what's useful and what's dangerous. They teach you how the world works and what you should be careful about. Yeah, so there's, I've thought about this a lot, and I've talked about this a lot with the students. There are really 3 overlapping things that you get out of art appreciation. The first is just the ability to access art and to not have that be a foreign, alien world to you. The second is by looking at enough art, by having a large volume of quality art in your life, you get exposed to more complex, high ideas. You think more about, what does love really mean? What does loyalty really mean? What does it mean to suffer or to experience joy? So they are just they're steeped in richer ideas than they would normally get from, magazine advertisements or something like that. And then the third all these things, they make progress towards all three of these things simultaneously. The third thing is it gives them this remarkable ability to articulate their own thoughts, to scrutinize their own thoughts, and to analyze and draw connections. That's really what they're practicing. It's fun. Strangely enough, there's a lot of overlap between art appreciation and science. The skills that make you a good scientist will also make you a good art appreciation student, because in art appreciation, it's about making careful observations, drawing reasonable logical inferences, integrating these ideas together, and making abstract leaps to larger ideas. And a good scientist does all of those things as well. They carefully observe the natural world, they draw logical inferences, they integrate data together, and then they make abstract leaps to higher ideas. Let's talk about the castle for just a little bit, though. When we see that castle, or maybe it's some different structure, what do castles do? Like, why the artist didn't need to put a castle in the background here, didn't need to put anything back. In fact, it's even a little bit of a distraction. But putting this big stone structure, well, what do castles fundamentally do for us? Daniela.
It kind of shows that there's civilization around, or either that maybe like it's more developed around there. Because if there was no castle, it would just look like maybe some like a green like landscape, not
So
like a city.
it looks a bit more civilized, a bit more stable, that sort of thing. Good. But my question was, what do castles do? What's the function or the job of a castle? Yeah.
Protect.
Protection. So I kind of imagine this painting breaking down like this. Maybe they live in this castle, or they're visiting the castle. This is the safe place. This is the protected place. This is the place where nothing can harm the little child. But they've left it, and they've come down the trail, and they've come to this border, to this wall, to this edge. And the mother has brought the child there to show him the flowers. Now, that's a cute little story, not that entertaining. But if we think about it a bit more thematically, if we think about it a bit more symbolically, there's actually a lot going on here. Yeah, Thomas, you want to comment on that?
Well, this is what I'm thinking is this child is used to living in the castle, and this is like, he's finally coming out and seeing something where it's like, there's good and it's bad. Because he's always used to seeing good, and the roses show the bad outside the wall, and this is just kind of like a new learning experience.
Okay, I like a lot of what you're saying there. Like, the child starts in that safe, protected place. And we all have the safe, protected place. Like, what is the place where hopefully you're safe, you're protected, nothing's going to harm you? Liana.
I feel like it's going, the mother's trying to show the child, like, you can go outside your comfort zone. And she's trying to, like, teach him, like, the difference between good and bad. Like, even, like, when you go on your own, like, when you get independent.
Yeah, I love that, exactly. The comfort zone, like getting out of the comfort zone, getting from, so when we think about what's inside the wall, this is all safe. This has all been explored. It's domesticated. It's got pretty sheep over there. And then once we come to the wall, it's not like this is, you know, there's wild dragons over here or anything, but we're getting further away from that safe, protected place and getting out towards the edge of the comfort zone, to the stuff that's new, to the stuff that's unexplored for this child. And that's what the mother did. That's what the mother is being shown doing here. Now, if you think about it, let me just play devil's advocate, though. Why would any mother do this? Why would any mother ever, if you have a perfectly safe, protected spot where nothing will ever harm your child, why on earth would you remove your child from that spot? You'd have to be a monster to do something like that. William?
To show them the outside world and show them the truth, not just, oh, the whole world is like this where it's safe and protected and you'll be safe from everything.
Yeah, so you got to show them the real world, the outside world. You got to show them how things work. What else could motivate someone to take their child out of that safe, protected place? Ruby?
Um, well, so that the child, when it grows up, knows what the dangers are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually you have to become an adult and you need to know what the dangers are in the world, or you also need to know what's valuable in the world too, right? Like what's useful and good out there in the world. When I was talking to the third graders about this, we had a little bit of fun where we said, what would happen to the baby if the baby never left the castle, or never left the home, or never left the safe space? And they came up with some really cute and funny answers. But it's good a question for you guys too. What would happen to a child that never left the safe space, that never left the comfortable security of the castle or the home? Kendall.
I think it would be a sort of a terrible life because you're confined in a space that's just safe and protected, but there's like a whole other world out there, and
Yeah.
like,
So there's infinite.
eventually I feel like the child would like run away or something to just see what's out there.
Yeah.
Besides their like confined space.
So there's infinite possibilities and values that they won't know anything about because they're always inside the castle. What else could happen to this child, this hypothetical child that never leaves safety and protection? Leon.
I feel like the child would not have ambitions because they would just be exposed to the same thing over and over. And
Yeah.
so if they were let out and like to a new world, they would have all these different materials and all these different values around them, but they would have no goals.
Yeah, it would shrivel their soul to not have goals and ambitions that they cultivate and learn about. You know, they go outside for the first time and nothing means anything to them. Nothing's important to them. Owen.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. When they go outside, they won't know what to do with anything because they'll be like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
Or like if something bad happens to them, they won't know how to act because it's never happened before.
Some cute things that the third graders said. The child would become weak and fat because they would never have to toughen up. And one child said, and I thought this was very sophisticated, so I want to see if you guys can if you're as smart as this third grader. One child said that the baby would become a coward if it's always in the castle. Can anyone explain how would that happen? How would someone always in the castle become a coward? Chasey.
Because their whole life they'd only be surrounded by good things and they'd think the world is a perfect place, and once they go out there and see all the dangers, they'd realize how it's so bad and want to go back and never leave again.
Yeah, they would never learn how to face challenges, fears, adversity, that sort of thing. So now we're starting to get into some really big ideas about what a parent is supposed to do. You gotta have that safe place where nothing will harm the child, that you can retreat to. But then another part of the parent's job is to take them up here, up to the edge between what's comfortable and what's uncomfortable for them. I'm glad that you brought up school, because all that school really is we try to put you guys on the edge every day. We try to put you at the edge of what you know and what you don't know, so that you can explore more. Like, we don't just give you addition problems in math class. We give you the problems that are on the edge of what you do know and what you don't know, so that you can grow and expand more and more and more. One of the things that's most beloved by the students, and it's getting better and better each year, is where I have them make their own artwork. Now, one of the things that I teach them is that in good art, everything is done on purpose. The little turn of the head, the curl of the lip, the artist poured hours and hours and hours into every minute detail. So hopefully, at least, it's there for a reason, and it all integrates together into a larger story. And so I teach the students to start with the assumption that every detail in the painting is a deliberate choice. And that's a way for them to pick a painting apart and to try to understand the intention. I'm not saying that, we get out on a Ouija board and we commune with a dead artist, but just as a mode of analysis, it's really helpful to start with that assumption when getting into an artwork. Now, the way that they apply this is when they are given the assignment to make their own art. So I tell them to make a portrait. They just do it on their phones. They take a photograph of someone that they care about, but they put a lot of choices into it. So maybe they're going to do a portrait of their mother, and they decide, this is one from last year that was really touching. They wanted the picture to be of his mother in the kitchen, preparing a meal, and he told her, I want you to wear this outfit because I like it best for these reasons, and I'm going to take it from this angle so that it's as though I'm a child looking at you preparing the meal. And so all of these little choices were put together in the angle, the lighting, the outfit, the posture, the facial expression, and then he snapped the picture. And now I know this woman, so I have a bit of an advantage, but I thought that her personality just radiated instantly from the photograph. So that's something that they get a big kick out of. We also do it for still life arrangements or landscapes that are meaningful to them. I love this assignment because it teaches them that their own life can be worthy of art. That the things around them can be suffused with just as much value as what they study in art appreciation. So, the Mona Lisa is a famous portrait, but it's a person with a personality that they connect to, and they can look at the people in their own life as being equally valuable as the subject of the Mona Lisa would be. I see a student outside the door, so I should go check.